this.
Rangers is done.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. You ready?
Sure.
In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? Alex Miller from the Eagle, joined by Robert Cessna. We're here at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver, Colorado. Texas A&M somehow finding a way to pull out a 10-7 victory over Colorado. Cease, you know, we'll get into it later. I mean, there's so many things we could start with. Let's just start with how A&M was able to find a way to win this, because boy, it sure looked like there was no way it was gonna happen.
They did so many things really wrong, and Colorado really did so many things right for them. You got to remember, Colorado is still picked to be one of the lower third of the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 was not regarded as that strong a league, even though now with Oregon winning today at Ohio State, people might think, and UCLA. So maybe the Pac-12 is a lot better, but still, Colorado's not that good. But they played hard today. They played physical. They were the better team for most of the way. But yet, when we look, we're talking the final score, A&M won, and that's what they pay, the bottom line, bottom line.
For sure. Let's get into Zach Elzada, because I mean, we'll get to Haynes King in a minute. But let's start with Zach, because that's who A&M finished with, and that's where it looks like the future of this A&M offense is going to be going with. What was it about him you think that maybe had him so frazzled and out of sync at first, and what do you think really allowed him to turn that corner and drive the Aggies down to victory?
Well, first of all, we all know football, the fact that we know he got very few reps this week with the first team. Probably the last 2 weeks he's got very few reps. And mentally, you can always say, oh, you're only one twisted ankle, you're one knee away from, you got to be ready. But come on, we said the same thing about Johnny Manziel, who played 26 games running around, never got hurt. It's hard mentally and physically for a backup quarterback these days to even feel he's going to be in at any time. So he comes in, he's throwing balls high. A&M has no running game, so you got to give the guy, he's kind of crippled there. He's throwing everything high. He doesn't have his timing. There's no running game. And everybody's saying, oh, man, what is Elzada doing? Well, the whole offense wasn't doing anything. I mean, when you're the quarterback, you get all the blame. And everybody goes, oh, King would have ran and picked that up. Well, it was completely different. The fact that the defense kept it a score close, that was huge, but that wasn't really Elzada's problem. It was the whole offense's problem. And he was just ahead of it. He looked absolutely horrible, but the offense looked horrible.
Yeah, after the game, Jimbo Fisher was asked, why'd you keep passing the ball when it was clear that it just wasn't working? Zach Elzada finished 18 of 38, not very efficient. He was better there in that fourth quarter, but for a long time, not efficient. But Jimbo said it, the running game wasn't there. Colorado was really controlling the line of scrimmage. We were talking throughout the game how, they were only bringing 3 a lot of times in that 3-man front with 4 backers, sometimes sitting a 4th, sometimes sitting a 5th. But it was pretty interesting to see how A&M struggled to establish the run. I mean, Isaiah Spiller only had like 7 carries. It was his lowest rushing total since a freshman effort against a very good Georgia defense. Interesting.
Here's my deal is Jimbo's got a national championship. I'm never going to have one. He knows what he's doing. But when I looked up, they only had the running backs had 17 carries. They were caught behind the line twice for 3 yards. So they were picking up yards. It was 2nd and 7 a lot, 2nd and 6. And then they throw an incomplete pass, and it's tough when it's 3rd and 6. I thought at times they gave up on the run too quickly. But once again, remember, Jimbo is known for his play calling, and his gut told him that they weren't going to pick that up. So you got to go with his gut over my gut, even though I'm hungry for supper. But, my point being is I think we all said, you might have given up on the run too early, Jimbo. And when he goes back, looks at it, he's admitted that before that he's done that. And I think he was just leery, but he also knows Elzada's strength is throwing the ball. He can't run like King is. So once again, is you have to give Jimbo a pass. He's not flying up here and go, okay, what are we going to do when Haynes King goes out? No, he wasn't thinking that at all. So you got to give everybody a pass.
Yeah, we saw it was interesting watching the progression of Zach Elzada. The overthrows early. They kept running the slant to Chase Lane, but not a lot of separation. Wasn't able to really hit that, even though they kept going after it. But at the end of the game, probably his best ball of the game was the one that mattered. It was the touchdown pass to Spiller. And probably the biggest catch of the game came a couple plays before that when Spiller caught that third down pass on the 3rd and 8 and just had enough for the first down, because then
he was on his back almost.
Yeah. And you would have been in a predicament where you either go for it on 4th and inches when you've struggled to establish the line of scrimmage, or you kick the field goal and pray that you get the ball back and have another drive where you can go and score more points.
Elzada was so bad in the first 3 quarters and then fumbled the ball inches short of the go-ahead touchdown. So he was GOAT, not the greatest of all time. No, he was just a GOAT. For him to pull it out, then what they're going to look at, and what Jim was going to talk about Monday in his press conference or whatever, I know the exact figures in front of me, but I figured them out. Elzada was 8 of 14 in the 4th quarter with over 100 yards. So you multiplied that times 4, he'd be all SEC second-team quarterback. Now, once again, is you can't differentiate. He had 3 horrible quarters, 1 great quarter, but he was on the bus coming up, playing up here, listening to his favorite music, not even thinking he's going to play. So you got to give him a pass, and you can give him a pass because they won. If they'd lost, doom, everything been falling back there. Everything would be falling back in Aggieville right now if they lost, but they won.
Now let's get into the reason why A&M was even in that predicament. Haynes King leaving the game, 2nd drive of the game, rolled up his ankle. We don't have official word on what it is, but it's not looking good. Wasn't able to put any weight on that leg, hobbled into the locker room, came back with the boot, the crutches. In the demeanor, in the language after the game suggests that Elzada is going to be the guy going forward because Haynes King's not going to be able to play.
Here's the deal, as we've seen before, is people have high ankle sprains. They might be out for 6-7 weeks. I mean, that's sometimes worse than if you break your ankle. I'm not like what's your name again? Alex said, you look, body language told a lot. You just hate to see those. When you're talking about a guy's wheels that's a quarterback, he's got to be 100% healthy before he gets back. It just doesn't look good. And once again, it does emphasize this game about, so much physicality up front, because he made a great read, not giving the ball to Aniyah Smith. And I'm thinking, wow, they just killed Aniyah Smith. Oh, wait a minute. That guy also got Haynes King. That was a good play. Oh, wait a minute. He's limping a little bit, and you go like, oh, no big deal, because we see guys, Spiller does it all the time. But this is a little more different than that. It does change his offense moving forward. And Jimbo will say it doesn't, but Elzada made a big 13-yard run. He can run, but he's not Haynes King, but he does have a good arm. He showed in the 4th quarter. So he's definitely, I would bet, going to play the next few weeks without even seeing the medical report because it's an ankle.
For sure. Well, the offense is definitely what the focal point of discussion is going to be. But the reason A&M won the game probably is because of the way their defense played in the second half. I mean, the turnaround between the 2 halves, it was night and day. And what an impressive effort it was collectively, the way A&M shut down that offense in the second half. They had no answer, it seemed like, for Colorado's running game, just kept them off balance, out of sync, guessing all the time, no answer, and then complete shutdown, it seemed like.
I'll throw out something good. I'll throw out something bad. The defense was lights out in the second half. I still don't know how good Colorado is because A&M defensive line won the line of scrimmage in the second half. I don't know if Colorado can have success against a good SEC team. And A&M is a good, they didn't play good the first half. There's a big difference. And I still don't know about A&M's offensive line because this is 2 weeks in a row, even though A&M rolled up a lot of yards. I'm still, I stick by what I said. This offensive line could be as good, if not better, than last year's offensive line by the end of the season. After 2 games right now, I don't know. I'll wait and see, because I'm not seeing what I thought I would see out of the offensive line. But going back to defense, they can't play any better. They can't play any better than they did the last second quarter plus the last possession of Colorado. Can't play any better. Now, moving forward, when you got Alabama down the road, you got Arkansas, suddenly all those games look bigger if King can't be able to play. But, there's good stuff today and bad stuff. And Jimbo touched on that. He said, good teams learn from these kind of games and correct. And he says, we got a lot of things to correct, which is very true.
Which is very true. Well, one characteristic about this defense that I've noticed the first 2 games, they've made the stops when it mattered most. In both games, Kent State and Colorado threatened multiple times. We saw against Kent State, they got the interception right before the half, kept the lead. There in the first half, they stopped them on 4th and inches at the 5-yard line. Colorado left points on the board. Heck, we could have gone to overtime had they just kicked the field goal from point blank range. And then you think about just the stops that they had there in that first half, coming up big when it mattered most. Because in all honesty, Colorado could have easily been up 23, 17-3, and A&M probably wouldn't have been able to muster that many points.
Thought the biggest plays in the game when A&M stopped them on 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 2 feet. Back-to-back bad quarterback sneaks by Colorado. You run right into the teeth of A&M's defense. Wasn't smart game planning or play callings there, but A&M stopped them. That's number one. Number 2 is when you look at that moving forward, then once again is what does that mean? Because you've got to get he touched on it. A&M's defense played so well in the second half. The offense played so well in the fourth quarter. They've got to have that sense of urgency earlier, because they've talked about, Monty Richardson, we need to be dominant. We don't dominate games. We got to dominate games. We didn't do that last year. Well, you got to have that mentality at the start. And it's hard for me to say looking up here, but they didn't seem to have that in either game. Then suddenly when the game's on the line, Elzada makes a great play. The defender makes a great play when the game's on the line, but they got to do that when it's 12, when they're up by 5, when they're up by 7, when they're up by 17, because that's what the good teams do. Because one day you're going to be at Ole Miss or maybe even at Arlington, Arkansas, and you're going to be lollygagging around, and suddenly the other team, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to kick it in gear, but the other team's too good. It's not going to matter. But, once again, I give them a pass because A&M's not used to playing a lot of games as the 5th-ranked team in the country.
Well, the question is, Cease, where does A&M go from here? Because coming into the season, playoff, national championship hopes were at the forefront of all the Aggies' minds. We don't know exactly what the timetable of Haynes King's return is, but it's not looking like it's going to be any soon. Alabama is coming to College Station 2nd week of October. We'll see if Haynes is back by then, or if Elzada can show improvement that he's able to lead that offense in a game like that. But, how does this maybe change the trajectory of A&M's season right now as we know?
I think what happened today in college football, A&M's got to focus for Arkansas. Arkansas beat the dog out of Texas today. Arkansas is riding high right now, and rightfully so. They got like 18, 19 starters. A&M has owned Arkansas. Colorado, you could tell this was a barometer game for them. They lost, but deep down they feel good about themselves. They said, hey, we're probably better than people think we are. This was a good game for us. Hated to lose. Arkansas saying in that locker room, celebrate A&M. They're pointing, and I don't know who they have next. They might be pointing to someone else, but for A&M standpoint, I know they play New Mexico, and that's going to be a glorified scrimmage. But everybody was pointing to the 9th, and even they play Mississippi State, I think, before they play Arkansas, and that's at home. But A&M, to me, can't take anybody for granted until they beat a quality team by 3-4 touchdowns and say, hey, we are a CFP team. Right now, they're not a CFP team, but there's a lot of people that aren't a CFP team besides maybe Georgia and Alabama, but A&M is still a national championship contender. If they lost that game today, to me, they wouldn't have been a national championship contender.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Monday with more coverage. Be sure to check out theeagle.com for all of our content from here at Denver. Cease getting on my level. There we go. I'm getting on yours.
I'm getting down to everybody's level, way down. I fumble all the time. Hopefully I won't have too many fumbles in March.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. For Robert Cessna, I'm Alex Miller. We'll see you next time. Okay, where is this? Dang it, dang it, dang it. There we go.